Well, hello everyone. I'm back again. It's this evening, and I wanted to participate in Theme Thursday, which is Stripes. And I have a time to be with my precious little boy, Oliver James, and we're going to get him out of his Halloween costume and put him in his new overalls that I got, I don't know, a couple of months ago. I think it was right after I got them when I was anticipating this little guy coming home from Amanda Hammond at Chrysalis Babies when I sent his head to get painted. So it's time. It's that time of weather and that time of year to put these little overalls on him. So I'm very excited, even though he did look so cute in his Frankenstein outfit for Halloween. And I would be putting my Charlotte into her new outfit that her Auntie Suzanne sent her today, as I cannot wait to do that, and she's going to be so beautiful in it. So I have to tell you something, that once I get her in that outfit, she's going to probably be in it for the rest of the month through Thanksgiving, because it's that beautiful and it's that time of year. And I have other babies I can change their clothes, but I'm not going to want to take it off of her. So I thought we'll wait a couple of days before we put her in it. And I did get a headband, and I got some shoes too today. I ordered some little shoes. We'll see how that works with if they fit her, if they don't look too gigantic. Trying to find little shoes online that are size 0 or size 1 is kind of hard sometimes. So I should be getting those pretty soon, like by Saturday. So next week, probably next Monday, we'll have Charlotte in her new outfit. But I want it to all look just super. Anyway, so I got my Mr. Oliver James in his little onesie, and I just love this little boy. He's just the perfect size, and I know what everybody means about this Grant sculpt. And I told you the story in a video earlier about how I ended up reborning him because I couldn't sell the kit, and then I ended up reborning for myself. And once I sent his head off to get painted by Amanda, oh, I am just so in love. Well, anyway, to go with the theme of stripes from Lucky Ducky, who is so gracious every week to do the theme Thursday, we're going to put him in this navy blue and gray and kind of a rust color striped onesie. And I love stripes. I like them on boys. I wear a lot of stripes, blouses, or sweaters, where they're actually jersey or t-shirt material. Nice though when I wear them to work, and they look, I like that. But anyway, so while I'm changing him, I thought I would tell you a fun story about my trip that I just got back from, my vacation to Williamsburg. And we had an exciting experience there. My son and my husband and I, we went in search of a grave. And boy, we really did go in search of a grave. And it wasn't easy, but boy, it was so exciting doing this. So I thought, while I'm changing him, I'll quickly tell you the story. There by Williamsburg, just a couple of miles to the west, or to the east, is Jamestown. And if you're American, you know that Jamestown is where it all began, with us Americans and the settlers that came over in 1607 and settled there, and had some pretty hard times for the first few years, but they did make it, and they did overcome the challenges that were there, and they were the builders of our nation that we have today. And I am fortunate enough to have an ancestor that was born in Jamestown in the year 1614, I believe. And that's or a little earlier than that, maybe it was 1612. But that's the amazing thing, is that he was born and he survived to be an old man. And if any of you know the Jamestown history, you know how many people did not survive those first few years, and the conditions were very difficult. Many of them died of disease, starvation, so forth. And this has this little bear. This is his little bear. Isn't he just, I just love it. Look at these little snap things, are the ears. So, I have I think it's my 7th or 8th, maybe it's 9th, great-grandfather William Swan and his wife Judith Green Swan came over here to Jamestown. They were a kind of a noble family, and in the beginning that was really the people who came. Beyond the servants were the gentry, because of course they wanted to get rich and bring back riches to England and so forth. Well, William Swan and his wife came over in 1612, and right after the starving years. But Jamestown was starting to actually become a place where you could have women and children and not just men there. So they came, they settled there, which I find truly amazing that anyone, when you stand on the shores of the James River and you stand at the settlement of Jamestown and you look back to the west and all you see is the woods. I mean, listen, England was civilized. England had cities, towns, education. This was in 1607. Charles was on the throne, and they were leaving civilization for a fort and for who knows what was going to be their future, but they did it. And I'm going to do this again so that we can a little bit tighter. So anyway, I have their son Thomas Swan was born there in Jamestown, and then they moved over to Surrey, which is across the river, that they settled, and named it Surrey after Surrey, England. And they settled there, and their family grew. And in the meantime, Thomas Swan, became very involved. He became a colonel in the militia and so forth and so on. And he even had a tavern there built in the Jamestown settlement. And it was a little bit further out, so that it was there for a few years. I mean, because by the time 1620 happened, Jamestown was getting pretty deserted, and they were expanding west. But he had a tavern, and the tavern foundation is still there. And my son and my husband and I, we went to Jamestown and did the tour and all that, and we saw the tavern, and I got pictures. And it was a surreal moment, thinking that my great-great-grandfather owned this tavern that now had burnt to the ground, but except for the foundation, was still there, and there was a plaque to him and a little memorial saying that this was Thomas Swan's tavern. And so that was really neat. Well, we had looked up a lot of the information, and where he grew up across the river in Surrey, he grew up on the Swans, or the Mount Pleasant plantation over there. And look at these shoes. Are they so cute? They have little bear to match his little bear on the outside of them. So get this junk out. Anyway, the plantation is still there, and it's changed hands many times over the year. But the cemetery, the family cemetery that holds about 30 graves from the 1600s, was supposedly still there. And my son, but now we found out that it was on private land. So my son got this idea in his head that he was going to find those graves, do or die. So we got on the ferry, we drove over there, we drove over to Surrey, crossed the James River, and the moment I entered Surrey, I was in love with that town. I don't know what I thought. I thought it'd be this big place like Williamsburg or something, and it wasn't. Just this small town, very quaint, very, very pretty. It was a beautiful fall day. It was just gorgeous. We stopped into the courthouse. We asked them there how to get to Swans Point to Mount Pleasant. And so the lady kind of directed us there. And we put everything on the GPS. And we took off from the courthouse in the middle of Surrey and went off in search of Mount Pleasant plantation and those graves. And she did say, well, it is on private property, so that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. And she says, I don't personally know where it is out there, but and in the meantime, this man came into the courthouse doing genealogy as well, and he just said, hey, this happens all the time. Why don't you just go up to the door of at the plantation and at their property and just ask if you can see the grave? And these people are so nice, they probably will. So, okay, we drive and drive and drive and drive and drive further out into this rural countryside, which was so beautiful, and there was not a car to be around or anything. We just kept going down this road. Pretty soon we saw this truck come up behind us, and we thought, wow, he's coming awful fast. And then my son thought, well, hey, it's a cop. And then we got scared, thinking, well, we're out here in the middle of nowhere, and maybe we're on somebody's land and we're not supposed to be. Anyway, so we pulled over and the truck just sped on past us. So we just got back on the road and kept going, and then pretty soon the road ended. And there was this big, cattle gate or something across the road, and it had a security thing on it. And of course, that was the land that this cemetery supposedly was on. Well, we didn't know what to do, and then out of the blue, that truck came back. He came out of a different little dirt road and came up to the gate, punched some stuff in, and was going to go on through. Well, my husband said to my son, Jimmy, jump out and go flag him down and ask him how we can get to see this grave. So my son did it, and the man stopped his truck and got out, and he was talking to my son, and my son said, hey, my mother here and myself, our great-great-grandfather, Thomas Swan, has a grave or a cemetery here on this plantation, and we'd really like to see it. Is there a public access to a road that we can get on? And he said, well, you mean you're talking about the Colonel and Colonel Thomas Swan? And Jimmy said, oh yeah, that's the man. And he said, well, this is private property, and it's this plantation, and there was no house to walk up to, folks, to go knock on the door and say, can we see your backyard? No, that wasn't there. Anyway, so he said, well, where's your mother from? And my son said, well, she's from California, and she's out here visiting me. I live in Williamsburg, and my family, and we really want to see this. And she does genealogy and family history. And he said, okay, follow me. I'll take you to the grave. Well, hello. We were so excited. He jumps back in the car, and we start following this man in his truck. Come to find out a little bit later, doing some research, this plantation was 2,400 acres. So this was huge. It was the most beautiful place I think I'd ever seen. These rolling meadows, pristine. All the outbuildings, which were just a few and far between, were gorgeous, like brand new, bright white with red roofs. And they had these cows. Now you're going to think this is funny, but they look like show cows to me. They were in this, part of a meadow, and they were kind of up by the fence, laying down. There's quite a few of them. And they were this chocolate brown. And they were expensive looking cows. They looked like they'd just been shampooed. And their enclosure behind them, in the back of the meadow, was like the Clydesdales enclosure for Budweiser in Missouri, or if you go to SeaWorld. I mean, it was just really something. We knew we were talking a lot of money. Anyway, we followed this man around and around and up and beyond, off-road, way off-road, going across the meadows, and then he stopped. And I thought, well, I don't see a cemetery. But there, right up in front of us, was this enclosure like you'd put a bull in, a wood enclosure. It wasn't that big. But it was very nice wood and had a gate on it. And in the middle of it, I just said to my son, I said, oh my gosh, there it is. There's his grave. Because they did them like tombs, back in the day. They were upraised graves. They didn't just have a headstone. They had a full-on, like, little tomb, and they wrote on top of that. I said, there's his grave. And the man stopped, and we got out, and I got to walk into the enclosure and take a whole bunch of pictures. I even did a little video that I shared with my family, and I was just overcome. Because I'm standing there looking at my great-great-great-grandfather's grave, where he was, right there. That on the top is inscribed, here lies the body of Colonel Thomas Swan, born this and died in 1680, and the dates, and it had his family crest, and it was all done in the original Old English. The way they spelled it, Lyeth, Lyteh or something like that. And it was a very moving experience. And then he came up to us, and on the other side of this little enclosure, a few feet, was this big gate, big fence that went around the property, and beyond the fence was just all woods. You couldn't see through it. And he said, there's 30 more graves down in there. He says, but, that's down in there, and we don't do anything about that because we can't find them all. And over the years, this stuff. But Thomas Swan's grave apparently was the highest up. And they didn't even really know it was there till a few years ago when this man bought this plantation for $7.1 million. And they were plowing the fields, and they ran into this stone. And he said, what in the world? And that's when they knew it was his grave. And my battery is going. I can see it. Anyway, that was truly an experience, ladies, I wanted to share with you, because